Property of exponents. Zero exponents. For any non-zero number, a to the power of 0 is going to be always 1. So if you have even 4 to the power of 0, it will be 1. Any variable with the power of 0, for example, x to the power of 0, will give you 1. Negative exponents. For any integers n and any non-zero number, you're going to do the reciprocal to make it positive. So if you have 4 to the power of negative 2, the reciprocal will be 1 over 4 to the power of positive 2. So the reason is you do the reciprocal to make it positive. So even if you have a variable x to the power of negative 3, you will have reciprocal 1 over x to the power of 3. In this example, we have an a 6.7 to the power of 0. That gives me 1. In b, we have negative 2 to the power of negative 4. The reciprocal will be 1 over negative 2 to the power of positive 4. We need to simplify, so we'll have 1 over, and we know that negative 2 times negative 2 gives you a positive 16. And that will be your answer. In example 2, we have 4x to the power of 0 over y to the power of negative 3. If you recall, any variable next to a number, we're going to have a what? Multiplication. So this is basically mean 4 times x to the power of 0 over y to the power of negative 3. The definition of negative exponents, we know that this one cancels out x to the power of 0, and we're left with 4 over y to the power of negative 3. We cannot have a negative exponent because they want us to simplify it into only positive exponent. So we do the reciprocal, which gives us 4y to the power of 3. You're basically moving it to the top. And if it was negative exponent on the top, then you move it to the bottom. Product of powers property. Let a be a real number and let m and n be integers. So recall that we have an, where a is our base and n is our exponent, okay? We're going to multiply, in this example, 4 to the power of 6 times 4 times 3. So all we're doing here in numbers, we're going to have to add. So when you have an exponent, you're multiplying, you're going to add your exponents. When we have quotient, which is another word of basically division, you're going to subtract. Okay? So when we have quotient, we're going to subtract our exponents. When we have power of a power property, which is, in other words, where we have exponents on top of exponents, you're going to multiply. So this example in product of powers, which is basically, remember, multiply. We have 6 times 4 to the power of 3. You're adding your exponents. You keep your base. This only happens if your base is the same. Okay, so we're keeping our base, which is 4, and 6 plus 3 gives us 9. In quotient, we're going to have, in this example, 4 to the power 6 over 4 to the power 3, and we have basically to subtract. Keep your same base. 6 minus 3 gives us 3. That's your answer. As long as it's not 0, remember, when 0 is in the exponent, it makes 1. If it's in the denominator, then that means it's going to be undefined, okay? Undefined. Now, when we have power of a power property, if we have 4 to the power of 6 times everything 3 times, all you're going to do is 6 times 3, which gives us 18. So your answer should be 4 to the power of 18. So let's practice. In A, we have 3 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 6. If you recall, the product of powers property means that we're going to keep the same base, which is 3 to the power of 2 plus 6, which gives us 8. And simplify this, what gives us, meaning multiply 3 times, how many times? 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All that multiplied together gives us 6,561. In example B, we have the quotient of powers property. So we have the same base, which just gives us -4. And if we recall, 2 minus 7 for our exponents gives us -5. Can we have a negative? No, because we need to do positive exponents. So we do the reciprocal. It's going to be 1 over -4 to the power of 5. So I can see my answer already. Simplify was going to be negative because I have a odd exponent. So my answer should be -1 over 1024. So if you recall, when you're multiplying negatives and you have a odd exponent, your answer should be negative. If your exponent is even, you will have a positive answer. In C, we have now power of a power property. We're simplifying. We're going to have Z to the power 4 times -3. And we know that Z times, let me fix that Z. Z 4 times -3 gives me -12. Then we got to do now what? The negative exponent definition, which is what? Reciprocal. So we're going to have 1 over Z to the power of +12 now. Here we have a power of a product property. So remember, product is going to be multiplication. Quotient means division, okay? So here we have to find a power product, find the power of each factor, okay? Each factor, and we're going to multiply. So here we know that it's 3 times 2 to the power of 5. So you're basically going to do distribute, okay? So we're going to have 3 to the power of 5 times 2 to the power of 5. You cannot simplify this together because we don't have the same base. So you have to do everything separately. In quotient, we're going to have, again, distributive. So if I have 3 over 2 to the power of 5, you're going to distribute. So I'm going to have 3 to the power of 5 and 2 to the power of 5. And then we simplify. Remember, 0 cannot be in your denominator. If not, it will be undefined. So let's work on some example here. The A, we're going to have power of a product property. So we're going to give that exponent 2 to each of my factors. So I'm going to have -1.5 to the power of 2 and y to the power of 2. Simplifying, -1.5 times -1.5, I already know I'm going to have a positive. So it's going to be 2.25 to y to the power of 2. In B, I have the power of a quotient property. So distribute. I'm going to have a to the power of 3 and -10 to the power of 3. Simplify, we keep our a to the power 3. I don't have any negative exponents in none of these, so they stay the same. As long as they are not negative exponents, they stay where they're at in place. And -10 multiplied 3 times, I already know that I'm going to have a negative answer. So it's going to be 1,000. C, I'm going to simplify again and use distribute. Remember that 3 is a product. So I'm going to have 3 to the power of 4, d to the power of 4, over 2 to the power of 4. Remember, you're not moving anything because none of my exponents are negative. So I'm going to have to simplify. So we know that 3 to the power 4 will give me 81. D to the power 4 over 2 to the power of 4 gives me 16. And that should be your answer. Now, if you see in D, now in D we have a negative exponent. So you're going to simplify and give to each of your factor. So it's going to be 2 to the power of negative 5, x to the power of negative 5 over 3 to the power of negative 5. Everything is negative. So do the definition of negative exponent, which you're going to do the reciprocal. So I'm going to have to move 3 to the top to make it positive. So it's going to be 3 to the power of 5. Bring that 2 to the power of negative 5 to the bottom to make it positive. So it's going to be 2 to the power of 5. And x to the power of positive 5. So you're basically moving this to the top and this to the bottom. Just because my exponents of negative. Remember, do not switch them unless your exponents are negative. If we simplify this, 3 to the power of 5 gives me 243. And 2 to the power of 5 gives me 32. X to the power of 5, we do not touch. And that should be your answer simplified.